Well, welcome in. I'm Tony Altieri. That is Rico Mukherjee, and this is the DFS Jags Golf Show podcast. I never really know what to call it, Rick. I always am like, what do we? I mean, it's more like a vlog. Like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we're on YouTube, we're streaming live on Twitter, we're all over the damn place. I don't know what to call it, but we're here. We're talking golf, and this week we've got the Rocket Mortgage, not to be forgotten. Our man, Tony Finau. Neither you or I had any money on him. I did have him in quite a bit of DFS, but hey, Tony comes through, probably the best player in the field, at least from an odds perspective, from a DFS perspective, and he won the damn thing.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff when someone at the very, very top of the betting board wins. We're usually not going to win money. That's kind of how it is in golf betting, for us at least. There's people out there that are casual bettors that will bet the top of the board, but we don't. Great comeback from him on Sunday. Scott Piercy completely imploded. I did have him in one of my main lineups, so I played five main lineups last week, and he was in one of them because I played 4 AM PM lineups and then 1 PM AM lineup. So he headed my PM AM lineup, which ended up being a 6-6 and was my actual breadwinner for the week. So good job, Tony. That was a pretty outstanding performance on for all 4 rounds. Actually, I think he made like 3 or 4 bogeys the whole tournament. So very nice tee to green, and look like he can putt now. I don't know. He's turning into a good putter.
Yeah, it was interesting. His stats weren't the best through the first 3 rounds, but I mean, especially the back half, like the last 9 holes of that tournament on Sunday, he played outstanding with the putter. I mean, it was amazing because it felt like, and this is a comment that, when I was watching Mayow's podcast earlier, I was listening to Jeff talk about it, and he was spot on in the analysis, which was, it felt like tournament was over from Thursday to Sunday about the 12th, 13th hole. Like Piercy was going to run away with it. And then he goes bogey, and then he birdies, and you think, okay, he's righted the ship. And then he
triples.
Goes bogey, and then I don't know if it was a triple or a quad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just he imploded, and then Finau birdied, and it was like there was this brief period where I had to even text you like on our string with Chris and Mike, and I was like, I'm live betting Hoagie because he's literally like 1 or 2 back, and he's like 14-1, and then it was all of a sudden like Finau birdied another one, and it was like it was already over again. Like there was a span of like maybe 15 minutes where it felt like, hey, there's 3 or 4 guys that could win this thing, and it was like, nope, it's over again, and Finau's going to run away with it. Yeah,
when you texted me and said you bet Hoagie live, that's when Finau was up 1, and I was like, it's over. Finau's gonna win, and then he drains that bomb, I think on 15 or 16, and it was pretty much over at that point. He tried to gag it a little bit down the stretch. He hit a 6-iron on 17 that airmailed the green and got lucky with a bounce off the grandstand, which easily could have been in the water, and then hit it in the water on 18. So he tried to gag it a little bit, but he had a big enough lead going into 18 that he didn't lose it. But yeah, man, what an implosion by Scott Piercy. He played so good for like, I don't know, like 63 holes, and then like 62 holes, and then just all of a sudden just imploded. I don't know if it was blister issues on his foot. I don't know what happened, but he just all of a sudden like gagged it away and choked it away. And we see that. I mean, we see this every week when someone tends to gag it when they're not a really good player on the PGA Tour. And Scott Piercy is just another example. And Piercy and Finau came back and steamboated him to win the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, not even him, but I mean, Grillo as well too. Grillo had played phenomenal. I mean, he was lights out on Thursday, kind of drifted back, but then, found himself in contention basically down the stretch like you're talking about with Piercy, and then he gagged it away too. It's like all of a sudden this putter went away, and that was it. He was done. But it was just really odd the way things kind of fell through, where it's like Thursday afternoon, you're like, this thing's over, and then Sunday afternoon, like for 5 minutes, you're like, oh, wow, we got a tournament. And it's like, nope, it's completely over. It's done with. You can go ahead and cash it away. And it was crazy. There was this massive like 4 or 5 shot swing, and then it was over. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a ton of it, but I did watch that period where it was like Piercy basically imploded. And I got to say this, is there a guy that's less likable on the PGA Tour than Scott Piercy? Like, not that I was cheering for him not to do well, but I mean, he just has like, his demeanor is so terrible out on the course. Like, I don't know if there's anybody that actually likes Scott Piercy other than maybe his wife and kids.
Yeah, not many people. And of course, everyone knows he lost all the sponsorships because he's a big QAnon guy, a big deep state kind of guy. just seems like kind of an asshole. So yeah, no one likes him. I'm glad. Really happy Tony Finau won. I was
Yeah.
super excited. I was cheering for. None of my bets were really in contention.
Yeah,
On
I had a
Sunday.
Sungjae ticket that was never in
Yeah,
play.
I never really had anything that was like the closest thing I had. I think was like Cam Davis that I bet like late on Thursday or something, but nothing really in contention. So it was kind of a blah week for me. Lost in DFS, lost all my bets. So it's all right. Time to move on to the Rocket Mortgage.
Speaking of the Rocket Mortgage, it's a good tournament. A lot of people, it's funny because of where these two tournaments fall. They've always been back to back. People confuse the two tournaments, the 3M and the Rocket Mortgage, but they're completely different from a course setup perspective, from a player profile perspective. Basically, every narrative that you can draw around, these two courses, dude, they're totally different. And it's just kind of funny because of where they fall schedule wise and proximity. And, one's in Detroit, one's in Minnesota. And it's like, oh, okay, people get them confused. But good tournament, a lot of scoring. This has been around for 3 years, and we've had 3 very unique winners that have walked away here. Obviously, Cam Davis won it last year in a great playoff. I mean, with him, Merritt, and Neiman, I think it went 3 or 4 holes. Neiman was out after the first hole, and then it was basically Merritt and Davis coming down 18 like over and over again. But a good finish, but I think it also shows you the kinds of guys. You've got 3 completely different player profiles competing in that playoff last year. But even before that, it was Wolf and DeChambeau, and before that, it was Nate Lashley. So because this course, the way that it's set up, you're going to hear a lot of the same things coming from basically all the talking heads, right? Which is it's a putting contest. So what does that mean? It means tee to green. It's pretty easy. It's not very demanding. Typically the score is in the mid to low 20s at this place. And basically it brings a lot of outliers into play, and whoever has the hottest putter for the week is going to win this tournament because everybody's going to hit fairways. Everybody's going to hit greens.
Yeah. Before we talk about the course, I meant to talk about this at the top of the show, but just wanted to plug our new Discord real quick. So for you guys that don't know, Nickel City Mafia, we just started a Discord channel, which is basically it's basically like the new age kind of way to have a community, be in the same kind of chat room. The link to join our Discord is in the description of the video. So just click on the description of the video on YouTube, and it will take you straight to our Discord channel. What we're going to do with that Discord channel is you, as our fans, our community, you can ask us questions. You can talk about amongst each other, like whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk about. We have 3 different threads in there. We have a Buffalo Bills thread, we have a fantasy football thread, and we have a fantasy golf thread. I'm always on there. I'm always on Discord. So if you guys have any questions, please join the Discord and ask. And it'll be a place for me to give some written content out, I guess. Also, like on Wednesdays, we do the show on Monday, so there's a lot that changes between Monday and Wednesday, weather, stuff like that, and like stuff like last week where I felt like there was an AM PM wave advantage, and I didn't have really anywhere to put it out besides Twitter. It'll be nice to have a place where I can get it out to our community and stuff like that. So on Wednesdays, I'll update weather, ownership, core plays, stuff like that. If anything changes on my betting card also. But join the Discord. The link is in the description of the video on YouTube. Me, Tony, Chris, and Mike are all coordinators. And if you have any questions, just leave it in there. Tag us, tag the coordinators, and we will answer the questions to the best of our ability. It'll be a good place for us to chat and sweat out some bets and sweat out some DFS on the weekends.
Absolutely. I mean, in addition to Discord, obviously, subscribe to the channel, leave comments on the video. You're pretty good about responding back to comments pretty quickly. Mike's great about reaching out if things pop up. So feel free to use all of those channels, whether it's YouTube or Discord or even Twitter, like you mentioned. We are pretty involved with all of those different aspects. So, hey, reach out to us if there are questions. Getting back to it just because we started talking about it. But
sorry.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm glad you're plugging it because that is something that we added today. But, the course itself, it's going to bring so many guys into play. Yeah. So, for me this week, when I built out the model, I was heavy in birdie or better. Off the tee, it's not very penal. You can spray the ball a little bit. But if you can put yourself in a position where you're not behind trees or in bunkers or things like that, good drives, opportunity gains, going to be important. And it's not a very long course. It's 7,300 yards as a par 72. So most of these guys, even the guys that don't hit it very far, are going to have wedges in their hands, right? From inside 150 yards. And so that's why everybody's calling it a putting contest, because it's just not very demanding from a tee to green perspective. So
yeah, I know you run a model with all these key stats and everything like that, but I literally ran a model this week, and it was off the tee 50% and putting 50%. That's all I did. Literally, that's my entire model. I think those are the two most important stats this week. I read somewhere that the people that have been finishing at the top of this event over the last few years in this iteration, they've been gaining strokes putting like coming into the tournament. So people that are gaining strokes putting in like 3 out of their last 4 events or something like that. So we know how important putting is here, and distance and off the tee is important here. So my entire model this week, I don't care about approach. I don't care about tee to green. I just did off the tee and putting and saw what popped out. And I'm going to roll with those guys this week and see what happens. I mean, it's really hard to there's really the margins are spread really thin between these guys that are wedge players that are, hitting balls from 100 to 110 yards. Like, all these guys are really good from that distance. These are wedge distances. These are distances that amateurs are good at. So where amateurs and pros differ is the distance and the putting and stuff like that. So at a course like this, where distance and putting is so important, those are going to be really key stats for me. Opportunities gained also is very important, but that comes with wedge play. But when it comes to the main stats that I'm looking at this week, off the tee, distance, driving distance, and putting, and playing those guys, and just kind of crossing your fingers and praying for the best at that point.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's why I love the birdies are better stat. It's really a correlation of, to your point, putting and then basically proximity and off the tee. Like, those 3 things is how you score in golf, right? Like, if you're crushing the ball off the tee, you're sticking it close, and you're draining putts, like, you're going to score a lot of birdies or better. And so I weighted that super heavy, just, because I have the stat here when I was looking at it. Top 5 guys coming in birdie or better over the last 50 rounds: Cantlay 1, Cam Young 2, Vince Whaley 3, Danny Lee 4, and Maverick McNeely 5. McNeely, obviously, from the putting perspective, is going to ring all the bells. But interesting, kind of a diverse mix of guys all getting it done in different forms or fashions.
Yeah, funny that you say those names, because in my model, in my 50% off the tee and 50% model, a 50% putting model, number 1 Cantlay, number 3 Cam Young, and number 4 Maverick McNeely. So those 3 might be my guys this week.
Yeah, getting into it a little bit, those guys are going to be all super popular. So when you look at the top of the board, I think everybody's kind of circling around Cantlay and Young. You and I talked off air before the show. Everybody's kind of off Will Z from the perspective of the narrative's out there that he can't win in a scoring fest, right? Like, he just doesn't putt well enough to be able to hit the kinds of numbers that these guys are going to hit this week. Like we said, greater than 20 to 20 under. And no one's going to play Finau because he won last week. I mean, if you liked Finau last week, like, why wouldn't you like him this week? Yeah, I mean, he sets up perfect. He's number 3 in the model. He's actually better than Cantlay, according to the key stats that I've thrown out there. But, I guess if you're going to take a stance here, do you think it's Cantlay, Cam Young? Do you think, hey, let's stuff both those guys into a lineup and then fill it out with a bunch of jabronis, because basically anybody can win here?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with the Will Z can't win at Birdie Fest narrative. We like him at harder tracks. We like him at US Open, Masters, those kind of tracks.
Where tee to green is a much more important aspect in winning, when you have to hit fairways and you have to be good on approach. This course doesn't demand that.
Yeah, and it's also we also saw that in his Korn Ferry career, because I think he won like 1 time on the Korn Ferry Tour, maybe twice, and all the Korn Ferry events are birdie fests. And so I don't really like Will Z this week. I'm going to ride that train, and I mean, it sucks. It hurts my stomach to fade him, but I love Will Z, but I'm going to fade him this week. He didn't play that great at the Open a couple weeks ago, so I'll ride off that train. But yeah, my guys up here are going to be Cantlay and Young. I think Cantlay's going to win this week. I hope he doesn't, because my bet is Cam Young up here. I didn't bet Cantlay. His odds were just way too short for me. So I got Cam Young at 20-1. So I'm going to ride with those 2 guys up here. I don't mind the Finau call, just because he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's obviously coming off of a win. His performance over the course of the last 3 months has just been top notch, top 5 player on tour.
Yep.
So I can't deny it if you're going to play Tony Finau, but I don't know. Coming off of a win, if you want to play that narrative, he's going to be popular. Tony Finau is always popular, especially coming off of a win. So I think if I'm going to pick between those two, $100 difference, I'll find the $100 and go to Cantlay, who I think is clear the best player in this field and the deserving favorite in this field, and the guy who, if his game is on, should win this event. So I'll roll with Cantlay this week. I'll roll with Cam Young this week. I'll fade Zalatoris up here. Tony Finau, undecided. He's a bubble boy for me this week. I will probably play him a little bit, but I don't think I'll be like overweight on Tony Finau this week.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was going back and looking at like comp courses, like courses I wanted to look at that would be similar to this, it's funny when I started looking at crossover leaderboards and the courses are nothing alike, but the scoring is very similar, is the American Express. You look at the guys who've played well at the American Express over the years and the guys that have played well here in the 3 years that we've had this tournament, there's a lot of crossovers on that leaderboard, and there's nothing similar about the grass, about the style of course, nothing. It's just both are birdie fests, and so it brings in a lot of the same kinds of similar skill sets. So I think that's why you have those crossovers between the two different courses. With that being said, go ahead.
I see that a little bit. The American Express is 3 different courses, so it's a little hard to compare the two. I think I'd rather compare this course to obviously Sedgefield, which is next week, because they're both Donald Ross courses, and the guys who we see play well at this course tend to play well at the Wyndham also. So I think I'd rather, of course, comp it to Sedgefield next week than the American Express. But I see what you're talking about when it comes to a birdie fest. So
yeah, I would say the only thing with Sedgefield, and you're right, this is a Donald Ross course. There's going to be similarities. Sedgefield is a positional golf course where it forces you to put the ball in spots to have opportunities to score. This course is just not going to demand that same level of accuracy off the tee. You're right. You can bomb and gouge this place and give yourself the best opportunity to score. And there are going to be similarities, especially in the green complexes, because it is a Donald Ross course. But at the same point in time, like, you can spray the ball off the tee like Cam Davis did here last year and still win and still have opportunities to score. And if you do that at Sedgefield, you're going to be dead. Dropping down into the 9Ks. Again, we're going to have some popular guys here. Homa, Davis, Adam Scott is gaining a ton of steam. I've heard him mentioned basically on every single podcast, every medium, everybody's articles. There's a lot of people talking about Adam Scott, Keegan Bradley, and then Kisner. Kisner, I think, has a top 5 finish here, at least one of the years that he's played here. So this is going to be another popular area where I think a lot of people are going to end up going to somebody like Cantlay or Young in the 10Ks and then dropping down and grabbing a guy here. I think Max Homa probably ends up being the most popular. There's been some correlations drawn to the course that's played for what was or what is the Fortinet at Silverado, just because it's a traditional parkland course. It's tree lined. Obviously, he's won there. He's won at Wells Fargo. So, there's a lot of narrative around Homa. Who do you like in the 9Ks, Rick?
Max Homa. Love him this week, man. He's missed the cut at the Open, so he's nice and well rested. He had an extra couple days to travel back here, get acclimated back to American time, and like you said, this classical golf course that Max Homa thrives at. Classical golf course that he won at Wells Fargo, the one he won at earlier this year at Wells Fargo. Two different Wells Fargo courses.
TPC Potomac, right?
Yeah. So these courses are tree lined and classical golf courses. He's won at Genesis, which is a classical golf course. So love Max Homa this week. He is number 2 in my model, sandwiched in between Patrick Cantlay and Cam Young. He is going to be very, very overweight. I'm going to be very overweight on this week. So I definitely like Max Homa. And I actually like Kisner. It's kind of weird because I usually
never get to him.
I never get to him. 9,100 Kisner sounds gross.
It does.
But he's playing well. He's coming in off of a 21st place finish at the Open. He had a 6th place finish before that. And his last 2 years here have been an 8th and a 3rd place. And where does Kevin Kisner thrive? At courses like this, and like Sedgefield, where you don't need to be like distance is important, but he just needs to get it on the green. And Kevin Kisner, as we know, is an absolutely phenomenal putter. So if it's going to be a putting contest, I'd like to go to Kevin Kisner.
Sorry, Rick, grabbing my plug-in here.
Oh, no problem. I'll keep rifting over here. But yeah, I'm in on Kisner. I'm in on Homa. Bubble boy for me here is going to be Cam Davis. He's a defending champion. I was pretty heavy on him last week. He played pretty well at a course where distance is important and putting is important. I don't mind Cam Davis also this week. I'm completely out on Adam Scott and Keegan Bradley. I think this is not the type of course. I don't even know why Adam Scott is here, to be honest with you. Like, what is he doing here? Like, why is he playing?
Biding this time before the Live Tour?
Yeah, what is he doing? I don't really understand. But 9,300 Adam Scott, he hasn't been that great this year. I can get off of Adam Scott and Keegan. I think I'd rather pivot off to Kevin Kisner, who's going to be super low owned. I'm seeing like less than 10% ownership here. So I'd rather pivot down to Kevin Kisner at 9,100. So for me, Homa is going to be my top play. Kisner is going to be my second top play. And then Cameron Davis is a bubble boy for me. And I'll fade the other two guys.
Yeah, I think realistically, if you're going to eat the chalk in the 10 and 9K, doing that with Cantlay and Homa is probably the smartest thing to do. That's going to squeeze a lot of other guys out, especially in the 8K range. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of guys that I like in the 8K range. And I think most people, when they're doing builds this week, will end up doing a stars and scrubs type of lineup, right? Because we talked about that variance. So I think if you can be a little bit different and drop down into the 8Ks, and I'm not saying to fade guys like Cantlay and Homa because that could be a death sentence, especially this week. Yeah. But I think there are options here in the 8Ks as well too. Denny's a guy. He's basically a couple $100 behind Kiz, same skill set. Obviously, Kisner's got a much better pedigree in terms of winning and being a player on tour for a number of years, but McNeely's a guy picking up steam. Davis Riley, everybody was on last week. He let everybody down, but I think a lot of people are back in this week on a bounce back week. Cam Tringale's got great history here. Hadwin was a wagon for a while. Everybody was riding. Webb Simpson, Donald Ross course. Why not Webb Simpson, especially if we can get him at $8,300. Russell Henley, inarguably a top 5 wedge player on tour. And if we're going to have wedges in our hands for most of these approaches, why not Russell Henley? Gary Woodland, who's been playing better as of late. And then I think, did Hubbard withdraw from this term? I know he withdrew this last week, but I've been hearing that he may withdraw from this week as well too.
I don't know the answer to that question. Did he withdraw? I know he withdrew last week.
Last week he did. Yeah.
I think he's still in the field this week. But if you just pay attention, guys out there, if he withdrew, obviously don't play him. But I don't know. I don't actually know if he withdrew or not.
Well, to your point, that's one of those things that's going to become much clearer as we get closer to Wednesday, which is a great time for you to jump on the Discord channel and then be able to figure out what the hell's going on with weather and Mark Hubbard.
Yeah, I agree. My guy here is going to be Mav. I was heavy on him last week, kind of let some people down. He barely made the cut, but he made a pretty good run on the weekend. He's number 4 in my model. He is number 1 on Donald Ross courses, weighted average strokes gained total. I have a Mav McNeely problem. I know I never
everybody
play
does.
him, but I think this is a really good setup for him. I think this is a course that really suits his game really well. I don't mind Mag McNeely at Birdie Fest, so I will go to Mag McNeely as my favorite play in this range. I think my second favorite play in this range is going to be Webb, just because of the amazing Donald Ross history for him. Yeah. We know that he's good on these types of courses, these short Birdie Fests. I don't mind the Webb Simpson. He did let down a lot of people at the John Deere a few weeks ago when he missed the cut. But he played pretty okay round 1 of the Open and then had a horrible round 2 and missed the cut. But coming in off of 2 missed cuts, he's definitely going to be low owned. Definitely don't mind some going back to some Webb Simpson. Other than that, I really don't like that many people in this range. I was really high on Davis Riley last week, and he just kind of really let me down. He was my pick to win, missing the cut at a course like that. Good situation where, kind of a flop lag situation where his ownership's going to be suppressed because of that. So maybe Davis Riley, but all these other names don't really appeal to me too much. Tagala played bad last week. Denny McCarthy is good, but 8,900 Denny McCarthy I'd rather play him in the 7K range, but He is the best putter on the planet, and if we're going to talk about putting contest, Denny McCarthy is the best putter on the planet. So I wouldn't blame you guys for playing Denny McCarthy. But for me, my number one play here is going to be Mac McNeely. My number two play here is going to be Webb Simpson. And then a bubble boy for me is probably going to be Denny McCarthy or Davis Riley, whoever I decide to go to between those guys. All the other names don't really appeal to me too much. I have a little bit of interest in Mark Hubbard if he's playing, just because, I mean, he's a number two overall in your model and his stats have been just phenomenal. I just don't know what his situation is, but if he's playing and he's in the field and teeing it up, I could get to some Hubbard also.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make a case for a bunch of these guys. And like you mentioned, the pricing's a little bit askew, right? Denny McCarthy's probably the one. Like, in what world is Denny McCarthy priced above Heath Takala, Davis Riley, and Gary Woodland? And to your point, it's because we're in a putting contest this week where putting is going to be the most heavily weighted thing that will determine who wins this week. And it's also the most difficult to predict. And Denny's the best putter on the planet, and I think I could see people, if they wanted to go with a balanced build, going, Kiz McCarthy right off the top, just to start
the best putters in the field. There you go.
Yeah. So, I could understand that. For me in this range, I like Mav. He's, fifth or sixth in terms of birdie or better over the last 50 rounds, but the guys that I really like, they're both bounce back plays in this range, are Tagala and Riley. Everybody was on both guys last week. And to be honest with you, the setup was not right for Tagala, right? The demands off the tee were accuracy. And, he hits the crap out of the ball, but he has a tendency to leak things right. And, it just takes a couple of those to find the water at the 3M and you're out of it. And you just don't have those dangers here. Like, you can spray the ball off the tee, and with his length, I love what he presents, right? The upside that he can bring. So I think him and Riley are probably the two guys that I'll lean heavily on. And then to your point about Webb, like, we're getting discount Webb Simpson, and yes, he has not played fantastic, but you can't ignore the Donald Ross history. You cannot ignore how good he is with a wedge in his hand. And we know he can go nuclear with the putter. Like, he just can go nuke. And you just got to hope that that's the week, if that's the horse that you're going to ride. But those would probably be the three guys from this range that I like the most.
All right. Sounds good. I don't really have any takes on any other guys. Let's go to 7K.
Down in the 7Ks, we've got a bunch of guys listed here, guys varying forms. The guy that blew me away when I ran my model was Scott Stallings. And again, a guy catching a lot of steam, going to be super chalky this week. But, that's really what you got to figure out. If Scott Stallings is going to end up you're going to eat the chalk with him, or you're going to fade him one way or the other. Your boy Goddard up, man. He's been playing much better. You mentioned in the text string that we had, played terrible day one. That's kind of been his MO. He just is a slow starter. And then he was fantastic on the back nine on Friday. I mean, he was lights out to make that cut. And I think he's going to be super popular again this week. Doug Gim played well last week. Sevenson played well last week. So there's a number of guys that
Svensson did not play well last week.
Yeah, sorry, Smotherman. I get Svensson and Smotherman mixed up like this all the time. Smotherman played well. Svensson missed the cut.
Yeah,
burned everybody. So the other guy that I really like in the 7Ks is Lebioda. I had a Hank Lebioda problem for a while last year, but I love him. Hits the ball far off the tee, and he can get nuke hot with the putter. And so I love him this week as well. Grayson Sigg is a guy that a lot of people saw a lot on TV during the tournament. If you actually watched that tournament last week, which I did not watch very much of it, but Grayson Sigg was featured quite a few times on Saturday and Sunday. He actually played, I think, in the final group or the second to final group with Finau and those guys, but you never saw any of his shots because he played like crap on Sunday. I don't know, dude. There's names. Brandon Steele was super popular. Jason Day is a Donald Ross specialist. Who are your guys here? Even if you got your boy Ricky Fowler at $7,300.
I mean, he is a Rocket Mortgage guy, so he's going to be playing.
He is. He's one of the few that's left that hasn't made the jump.
Yeah. So starting 7,500 up, I'm going to go to Stallings. I actually don't think. I mean, he's going to be chalky, but I don't think he's going to be as chalky as we think. Just because Chris Kirk is going to be popular, Tom Kim is going to be popular, Troy Merritt's going to be popular. So I think the ownership might be a little flat in this upper 7K range. So it's still early. Like I said, we'll talk about this more on Discord. So if you guys are in there, we can talk ownership more when the ownership percentages mature a little bit more. But I think my favorite play up here is going to be Scott Stallings at 7,700. I'm going to go back to Tom Kim. He's been doing it. I mean, he's been third
He's
at
been
the
playing great.
Scottish. Yeah, third at the Scottish. Made the cut at the British Open. Made the cut last week and played pretty well on the weekend at the 3M. He has unlimited sponsor exemptions for the year. He got special temporary membership on the PGA Tour, so he can literally play every event up until the playoffs, I believe. Yeah, so I think he can play every single event, including swing season events, I believe. And he's great, man. He is 20 years old. He has a great swing, and I think I think in 3 years, maybe 2 years, even he's going to be priced in like the 10K range, and we're going to be talking about, oh yeah, remember when Tom Kim used to be 7,500 at the Rocket Mortgage, when now he's 11,000. So I think he is that good. He might be a little gassed playing 4 weeks in a row, 2 weeks overseas. But he's 20 years old. I mean, these guys literally play golf every day, and he has the flexibility to play. So why not? So I think up here, my favorite play is going to be Scott Stallings. My second favorite play is going to be Joo Young Kim. And my third favorite play is going to be Troy Merritt. I like Troy Merritt at Birdie Fest. He played really well last week on the weekend. I will go back to some Troy Merritt. Below 7,500, I'm definitely going to go back to Goddard. He is really, really good off the tee. Like you said, he has these struggles in round one. If he can somehow correct those struggles in round one, he was a hero for me last week in that Tony Finau lineup that I mentioned. He made an eagle and a couple of birdies down the stretch on the back nine on Friday to make the cut. So I really like that grind from him. But if he just has a good round one, he could be in contention in a tournament like this. So I like Goddard. I like Nick Hardy at 7,300. He's been playing pretty well. I'm going to go back to CT Pan. I love CT Pan every single week for some reason. He's turning into, I'm starting to have a CT Pan problem. I'm with you on Lebiota at 7,100. I'm also going to keep riding the heater that is Wyndham Clark at 7,200. He is
Been playing great.
He's playing great. This is a course that suits him really well with where he can spray it off the tee, and he's one of the best off the tee players in the field. And that's about it for me as far as names that are sticking out. I'm not going to go back to Svensson. He burned me too bad last week. I like James Hahn at 7K. He finished T3 last week at the 3M, just sneakily rose the leaderboard on Sunday. So I think he's coming in pretty hot. And James Hahn's one of those guys, when he gets hot, he can make a lot of birdies in a row. So at 7,000, I do not mind some James Hahn. So just to recap below here, my favorite plays are going to be Goddard, Nick Hardy, CT Pan, Wyndham Clark, Hank Lebiota, and James Hahn. Those are going to be my favorite plays below 7,500.
You know, what's interesting with Svensson, and the thing that is probably the most unnerving with him is how good he is tee to green. That's why I get him and Smotherman mixed up all the time. They're both excellent tee to green. And the guy lost 6 strokes tee to green last week. 2 off the tee, 3 on approach, as well as his usual 1.5 putting. So it was all around just a terrible round for him last week. But, typically he's decent with the putter. I shouldn't say that he's terrible with the putter. Typically he's decent with the putter and he's a pretty good tee to green player. The guy that I would say that he's like basically a homeless man version of is Vic Hovland. I mean, Svensson is terrible around the greens, pretty good tee to green in terms of approach and off the tee, and he was just abysmal all the way around the board last week. So it might be a good spot at a course where it is flat. We talked about this. It is fairly open. It's not very long. It might be a good buyback spot for him. And to your point, he burned so many people last week. No one's going to, especially with all the names that you listed off in this range.
Yeah.
For me, the guys that I like, I love Merritt like you. I'm going back to Champ. He
played good last week. He
did.
Yeah.
And the whole bomb and gouge narrative, like this is the kind of course where Cam Champ can just show up and just overpower a course if he doesn't go full nutso Cam Champ like he does from time to time. The other guy that's gaining steam quietly, like I saw his number open up at 100 and I've seen him at places as low as like 45 or 50, is Taylor Pendrith. His 2 main skill sets, off the tee and putting, those are the 2 things that demanded the most this week. So you're going to see a lot of people talk about Taylor Pendrith as kind of a sleeper this week. He's not a sleeper. There's a shitload of people talking about him.
Yeah, he's 6th in my model, man. Off the tee and putting, or my 50-50 model. 6th in my model. He's solid with those two clubs in his hand.
Yep, and I am officially throwing my hat on the Goddard up train. I will be riding
Yeah.
Goddard up this week. So you were one of the first guys in on that deal, and I peppered you just about how terrible he was, and he's been playing great. So I am fully in on that deal now. So Goddard will make it in there. And
Dude,
then to your point,
winning the Haskins Award in college is a big deal.
oh yeah,
Like it is a big deal. We've seen Tagala, we've seen people in the past like Cantlay and now Goddard. Like these guys are really good. They're professional golfers, man. And 7,400 for somebody who won the Haskins Award last year. He's a good golfer, and his strength is his off the tee game. He can bomb the shit out of the ball.
yep.
And I think at a course like this, he's a solid value. And at 7,400, you don't really need him to win, but he does have the upside. I think that he could win at a birdie fest. So can he just make enough putts?
Yep. The other two guys I'm going to play, and it's purely from a long-term pedigree and an ownership perspective that I am going to have basically as pivots and lineups off of all these guys that we talked about, Ricky Fowler and Harris English. English has been playing better. He was injured and out of commission for a really long time, but he strung together a few made cuts. Didn't play so well in the Open, but that's okay. Like, this is not the same kind of course. Then Fowler's sneakily been just making cuts. He hasn't been doing anything super fantastic, but if he can just heat up with the putter, which has been just terrible over the last 2 years, if he can just get kind of back to where he was, which was a decent putter, who's to say a guy like Ricky Fowler couldn't jump back? I mean, we've seen, Stuart Sink win 2 times in a year after not winning for almost a decade. So I like both he and Harris English just from a pure pivot perspective, because no one's going to play either guy.
Yeah, I like that call. I like the Champ call. I think I might be on board with the Champ call. He's one of those guys that we don't need any lead-in form from him, and he can literally pop at any event and win. We got a little form last week, so a top 20 from him last week, and then he can turn that into a win this week. I don't mind the Fowler call. Like you said, he's been playing better. But 2 names we didn't talk about in the 7K range who played really well last week, who have been playing really well over the last few weeks, last few events that they've played. Callum Tarrant and Grayson Sigg at 7,100. Both of these guys are good golfers. They're Corn Ferry guys that have been rising in their ranks this year on the PGA Tour and making a name for themselves. And they both finished in the top like 5 or 10 last week. Tarrant was in the final group on Sunday, or maybe Saturday. I don't remember, but he played really well. And these guys are good. And at 7,100, that's not a bad price tag for either one of those guys.
Yeah, it's funny because they both do it in different ways.
Yeah,
like
definitely
the skill set for either guy. Taram is I don't want to say a long time, but he's played previously on the DP World Tour. But it's interesting when you look at their course history. Both guys missed the cut at the Travelers. John Deere. Both guys finished inside the top 20 at the John Deere. And then last week at the 3M, both guys finished inside the top 10. So for whatever reason, from a course fit perspective, even though they're doing things different in terms of how they're making their way up the leaderboards, both guys have played well and not played well at the same style of courses. So again, it's just odd that they're right there. And you mentioned both of them. And like, to your point, they both played well last week. Another guy who's right there is Patrick Rogers. Patrick Rogers has been playing. This is probably his best season outside of the missing the cut at the Scottish Open. He's been friggin' lights out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
I don't like. I like that range right there. I think I think like almost 90% of my lineups are going to end right in that 7,100 to 7,000, like 7,200 kind of range right there. I really like those pepper my lineups with those guys. And then if you jam 2 guys at the top, like I plan on doing with Cantlay and Young, you're going to have to round out your lineup. You can play 3 guys from down here, and there are a lot of guys down here that I like. So I could see that being a popular build this week, but I think I'm going to roll with it. I like that call.
Yeah, I think your point about the number of options in this area and ownership not getting too bad, where we're not going to see, like, again, just to throw it out there, we're not going to see Hank Lebioda get to 25% ownership because there are so many options. Goddard's a name, Stalding's a name. We could see those guys get into the mid-teens, but that's not that bad. And again, if you're going to mix a guy like that with a CT Pan or a Harris English or one of these other names that we've mentioned, then that's where you get your ownership hedge.
Yep, I totally agree.
Dropping down below $7,000 into the dumpster. I think where you're going to have to go here is if you end up trying to go 10K, low 8K guy, you're going to have to jump down here and grab one of these guys.
Yeah.
And there is, at least in my opinion, there's a significant drop off in the players from the 7K to here, but there are still some decent plays. I mean, you've got guys like Bo Hostler, like David Lipsky, Zach Johnson, who has phenomenal Donald Ross history. He's one of the better bent grass players. He's still one of the better rated out wedge players. He's down here, and there's names. I mean, Doc Redman finished second here 3 years ago. Charlie Hoffman, who's good. Peter Malnati, who's one of the better wedge players. So there are options, obviously a ton of names, but who are the guys you like down here below 7K?
I like right at the top, Chesson Hadley. He played good last week.
He's been playing good lately.
He's been playing pretty good lately. So at a course that I think suits his skills pretty well, I definitely like some Chesson Hadley. Dropping down, I like Bryce Garnett, who was a popular name last week in the 6K range. He's the same exact price as he was last week. So 6,900, played pretty well last week. Bo Hostler, like you said, who is a phenomenal putter. He is one of the best putters on the planet. He sucks at everything else, but he's a really good putter.
But like we said, you could suck at everything else and putt well and maybe win this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bo Hostler, I like him at 6,800. I'll go back to Nate Lashley. I don't see him on your list here. Where is he? Nate, 6,800. Yeah, 6,800. Yep. He won here 3 years ago. He was a late add to the field that year. He wasn't in the DraftKings pricing or anything like that, but he's been playing all right this year. So at a course where he's won at, and he won wire to wire here 3 years ago. So some good vibes coming back to this course. I could definitely sprinkle some Nate Lashley in. Sepp Straka, he's been pretty bad recently, but he's fifth in my model, 42nd off the tee, 14th in putting. So good numbers from him in the two key categories for me. Those are the guys I like up there. I don't really have many other names. Brandon Hagee at 6,500. He's just one of those guys that mashes the ball off the tee, kind of sucks at everything else, but if we're gonna stress off the tee, he's one of the best off the tee players in the field. So Brandon Hagee at 6,500 could be a sprinkle for me. Like you said, Doc Redmond, he's been really bad, man. I don't think I can go back to him. I need to see something from him again before I can go back to him. But Danny Lee can get hot with birdies. I don't know, man. Garrick Hugo, I played with some of him last week, but he's bad.
He killed me last week.
He's bad too. Oh, your boy Ryan Armour, 6,600. I like
fairway finder Ryan Armour.
I like Ryan Armour this week. He's a good putter. That's it for me. I don't really have any other guys. So my favorite play is probably going to be Bo Hostler. My second favorite play is probably going to be Chesson Hadley, and then my third favorite play is probably going to be like either Nate Lashley or Sepp Straka at 6,700, one of those guys. But I'm going to try my best to just maybe like pick and choose like 4 or 5 guys here maximum, and then just try to round up most of my lineups in the bottom of the 7K range.
Yeah, I think.
Lee Hodges. We forgot to talk about Lee Hodges. That's our boy.
Yeah, you and I are both like Lee Hodges. We're in this week on him.
Definitely.
And it's mainly because of the skill set, right? The off the tee game, and then he can get hot with the putter. It's funny you mentioned Hadley, and he's probably the only guy, at least early on, that looks like he's gaining steam. It may be chalky at 6,900, but you look at his lead-in form. I mean, the guy's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 tournaments. He's made 4 cuts in a row, and he's been doing it basically everywhere except off the tee, and that is the one area where you can be a little bit loose this week and not really get in any trouble.
I'm not really. Late on a Monday evening, I'm not really seeing much ownership for him. There's not really. I mean, he's the highest owned, but he's also the highest owned at like 4%. So that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and it's chalky is always one of those terms where it's like, who knows? It's again for a guy to be in the 6Ks and be over 8 to 10%, that's a little bit dangerous. But to your point at 4%, that's not ridiculous. The other guy that we didn't talk about, but he probably has the best course history down in this range, is JJ Spawn. 3 made cuts, 2 top 30s and a top 20. He hasn't been great since he won, But again, he plays well at this course, and no one's going to own Spawn. And again, when you're looking at just the last 3 years, he's right up there with anybody else in the field in terms of course history. Again, not a difficult course. Another guy that we should at least mention, just because he's been playing better, like he's been making cuts. Let me rephrase that. He's been making cuts, and statistically, he rates out really, really well. Ryan Moore at $6,600. No one's going to play him. Like if you put him in your lineup, you and Ryan Moore are the only people that are going to own him. And then your boy Sabs. I like all these old school guys because everybody loves the young, like up and coming guy because they represent potential and all these wonderful things. But there's some veterans down here in the 6Ks. You know, you mentioned Brandon Hagee. There's guys that you can add and throw in the lineups. Really, what you're looking for is a guy to make the cut. Like if you're grabbing guys that, you know, below 7K, just make the cut. Like that's all. I don't need you to just show up, be there on Sunday. You know, don't go home until Monday. That's all I need.
Yeah, I like those calls. Ryan Moore's a good Donald Ross player. He gains strokes on the field a lot. Yeah. I got to ask you about one guy, just because kind of a little bit of an elephant in the room, but Scott Piercy, 6,900. What are we thinking?
Dude, he played great, to your point earlier, for such a long period of time. I think some people will end up going back to him. I can't, dude. The long-term form on Scott Piercy is dog crap.
He looked good, man. His putter, I know he did it all with a putter, but if his putter's hot, like, and he can ride that hot putter into this week, I mean, maybe, like,
I get it. I just don't think they can do it because here's my thing. When it started to go bad, it was an abject failure, a total train wreck, like instantly. It was like he was terrible again. So I don't like to grab guys who, you know, basically come crashing into the finish line. Like I love guys who, like, you know, maybe come in, you know, top 10 and they finish well on the back and they have momentum going into the next week. And God, dude, I get it. I totally get it. Cause he did look really good for such a long period of time. For me, I can't go there.
For what it's worth, in my entire DraftKings history career, I played the $4,444 Millionaire Maker at like 3 majors, and the one at Pebble Beach where Gary Woodland won, Scott Piercy was in that lineup. So I did play him at that Pebble Beach. He didn't do good that week, but I have played him in a really high stakes lineup before, so I don't mind going back to him. I mean, obviously did you see the whole blister thing on Saturday? That was so weird.
I just saw that he was walking around without shoes.
He literally hit the ball, immediately took his shoe off, and then just walked to his next shot, and then immediately put it back on, hit the shot, and took it right back off. So it was really weird. I don't really know what the situation was. I guess blisters on your feet do hurt, so I kind of get it. But I'm sure he's going to be all healed up from that by this time next week. So yeah, I could maybe go back to some Scott Piercy if he can ride a hot putter into this week.
Yeah, the other guy that I'll at least throw at you, just because he's at the bottom at 6,000 and he ranks inside the top 50
I wanted to talk about him, man. He was really good last week.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sung-Yul No, man. I played him in Showdown all weekend. Like he was a fixture in my Showdown lineups because he was playing so well. He was going out early and he was making a lot of birdies. I don't think that's a good price on him. I think he should be up in the upper 6,000 range. I think that's kind of a misprice because he's way better than any of those other guys down there, and he's playing way better than any of those guys down there. So if you're jamming in a lot of guys at the top, I don't mind a little Sung-Yul No sprinkle at 6,000.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing, like we talked about, you know, with Kisner and with McCarthy, is the skill set is with the putter, and he is one of the better putters in this field. You know, he consistently over the last basically 100+ rounds gains with the putter. Where he's terrible is off the tee, and if you're going to be bad anywhere, off the tee is the place to be bad at this course. So, you know, you got a guy who consistently gains on approach. He's good around the greens. He's excellent with the putter. I at $6,000, dude. I mean, he might be one of my most heavily owned guys down here in the 6,000 range. So I love No this week.
Yeah, I like him too, man. He has won on the PGA Tour before. It was
Yes, he's a winner. Yeah.
yeah, a long time ago. I think he won like the Zurich Classic before it was a team event or something like that. So yeah, flat 6,000. Let's go. Sung Yul No, let's fire it up.
Yeah, I mean, shit, you could do worse, right? You could go play
Yeah.
Josh Creel or Bo Hogue or Cole
Jeff
Palmer.
Ogilvie is in this field. Holy
Yes,
shit!
dude, I thought he was on the live tour. They let it back in. I don't know what's going
What
on.
do you mean? I thought he was retired.
I have no idea. I just saw his name and I'm like, is that a misprint? I don't even know who Wyatt Worthington is. Like, I'm like, who the hell is Wyatt Worthington?
I have no idea who that is.
Does he hang out with Thurston Howell III or what's the deal?
I don't know. But no, Sung Yul No is the only guy. That's the lowest I would ever go for a player in this field. And he's the only one down below 6,400 that I would play.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's jump into the bets this week. Like I mentioned, dude, I'm going to be heavy on bombs this week. I don't. Your point about Cantlay winning, I fully subscribe to that. I think he's the guy to bet. And if you're gonna bet anyone this week, like, and you're just like, hey, feet to the fire, who should I bet on? Bet Patrick Cantlay. He's probably going to win. He's the best player. And if you look at like the last few weeks, like what's happened, Patrick, the favorites have been winning, right? They've just continued to show up and win. And so he's the best player in this field. And I think he's going to win the tournament. I just can't bet him at, 8-10 to 1. I just can't do it. I can't bet him. I can't bet Finau. I can't bet Homa. Like all those guys, Cam Young, they're all under 20 to 1 for me. So I'm not going to get there, but I am going to go back to Davis Riley. I'm going to jump on the Adam Scott train with everybody else. Told you I love Tagala. I like the number on Siwoo Kim, Cam Champ, and Woodland. So that's my main card. And then I'm going to have sprinkles on basically like a dozen guys at 80 to 1 or higher. But there'll just be sprinkles and, just want to have a little bit of juice. Obviously, that's probably way more exposure than I probably wanted this week. But like I mentioned, I think Lebiota is a legit chance. I think, Taylor Pendrith, legit chance. Troy Merritt, same thing. So I like those guys. And then you and I both like Lee Hodges. So those are all good picks from my perspective based off of, just the fact that anybody can win here this week.
All right, yeah, I like the bombs. I'm similar to you. I got just very few guys at the top. I did find Cam Young at 20. I found Max Homa.
Yeah, your number on Young and Homa are great. Yeah. Like I can't find anything below 17. The places I can bet on either guy, and I just can't touch it.
Yeah, so I don't mind those numbers. So Cam Young at 20 leads off my card. I think this is a great course for him. Bomb and gouge.
Who's MV McNeely?
Nav McNeely. Cam Young at 20, Max Homa at 25, Cam Davis at 33, and Mag McNeely at 60 for me. That's my major units right there. And then my bomb sprinklers are going to be Wyndham Clark, Troy Merritt, CT Pan, Patrick Rogers, like we talked about, Bo Hossel, like we talked about, Chesson Hadley, Straka, Hahn, Lashley, Lee Hodges, and Brandon Hagee at 300 to 1. Hopefully Lee Hodges can win here. 150 for you, 160 for me. That'd be a nice little bomb win for the show.
I'd love it. I mean, last year we hit Cam Champ and Cam Davis back-to-back weeks at plus 125 to 1 or more. So, who's to say one of those guys can't be here? Our boy Chris is online with us. Chris is on the West Coast this week, isn't he?
Yeah, he's up in Pasadena doing NASA things, looking into space and building rocket ships.
Dude, it's crazy. I can't believe that guy actually does that. He's, protecting our country from aliens, I guess.
Yeah, he's part of Space Force. Welcome to the show, Chris. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, I love the calls. The one that I really like that I'm probably kicking myself that I didn't bet it is, both the Hostler and the Hadley calls. I like both those a lot. I think they're legit bets, kind of like I mentioned Lebiota. I think those guys could show up and win this week.
Not too late. It's only Monday. You can still get a good number on both of those guys.
Yeah, and typically with the bombs, I like to see the numbers mature a little bit because I feel like we get better, right? Because people aren't betting those numbers, so the numbers just get bigger and bigger. So I'll probably end up adding a couple of those guys with sprinkles when they hit, 200, 250 to 1. But, it's going to be similar to last week. I don't think I'll be watching intently like I did during the Open, like you did, staying up all night into the wee hours of the morning to watch a tournament. But, I'll catch the front end and the back end of a couple rounds and probably follow it on Sunday and see if I can bet somebody because outside of Cam Cam Smith here a week ago, dude. Like it's been tough going.
Yeah. Time for you to get back on the train.
I know. I'm due for a winner. Like I said, the Cam Smith one was nice. Thanks to you for pointing that one out. But hey, it is what it is. And Chris, I'm sorry. Hey, no big deal. I totally love you. Although I do think it's funny that you work for the federal government and, like I said, protecting our country.
He's worked at NASA forever, like literally since like college, and that's like been his job since college. And it's a good job, government job. He gets pretty cushy benefits. So good for him, man. And he's getting married in a couple months. And the funny thing is that his fiance literally does like does almost kind of the same thing. She doesn't work for NASA, but she does like engineering kind of stuff, and she's like smarter than him, and it's amazing. It's like he's marrying up for sure. So good work.
Yeah, but I think that's the key. Like, right, you want to marry up when you're a guy. Like, if you're marrying down, like that's not going to work.
Yeah,
but
man, I'm excited for that. We're going to Ireland for his bachelor party in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be crazy. We're going to play some golf out in Ireland. So, yeah. He said Ireland golf stream. Yeah, man, we're going to be hammered in Ireland doing a golf stream.
Yeah, you guys should definitely just, if you can live stream it, I'd love to see it. If you can't, just at least Instagram story it. Just keep posting stories over and over again, and we'll get the gist of everything there.
We'll do a live stream from the strip club. How about that?
Oh, that's perfect. That would be fun. Make sure you live stream that to Twitter and the Nickel City Mafia channel, because that will be must see TV.
All right. Let's go. Let's hit a winner.
Yeah, for sure, man. Good luck this week, Rick. Thanks again, Chris. Thanks for staying up, man. Glad to have you on the West Coast. You just need to move out here with all the rest of the smart people, and then you too can enjoy the wonderful weather we have 12 months out of the year. That's going to do it for us. Good luck this week, and we will talk to you guys again here soon. Chris, we'll do a show. Let's get out on the course, the three of us. I don't know how long you're in town, but let's do it.
Yep. Also, real quick, me and Chris are doing a fantasy football show next Tuesday, August 2nd. We're going to do an introduction to fantasy football for the year and introduce you guys to the rookies and their fantasy impact this upcoming fantasy football season. So fantasy football right around the corner. Can't wait for football season to start. Training camp started basically this week for all the teams. So can't wait to get fantasy football going. And we'll be doing golf also.
We're a month away, dude. Football starts. We're a month away from football. Crazy to think about. Anyways, it's late, Rick. Thanks again, man. Thanks for joining us fresh off the softball field.
Yeah.
And to your point, hopefully we can hit a winner this week, and good luck to everybody out there. Have a good night, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.